Hello, welcome to Beat Burnout. My name is Taniya Hussain. I've been your host in this interview series, and today we have Denise Hansard. She is a Southern girl who loves to tell stories, and she's been doing it all her life. She made a choice to set herself free from the stories of her past, so they would no longer define her present nor her future. With a master's in counseling, a certification in life coaching, and 20 years in the corporate world, Denise uses her passion for helping people become their best selves based on the sound foundation of her education and corporate experience. Denise Hansard describes herself as a life architect and a motivational speaker. She's actually the author of Suffering in Comfort, and I thank you for joining us, Denise.
Thank you, Tanya. I appreciate it. This is such a wonderful opportunity. And I know with you and what we're going to be able to share together in our conversation will help others.
Yes.
Because we've all been there.
I hope so too. Yeah, we've all been there. We've all not realized that we have been burnt out. I know myself as a social worker, there have been many times in my life I've been burnt out, but not even realized that it was my work that was traumatizing me, was making me feel so depleted. And I just want to know, Denise, with you, have there been times, what has been your experience of burnout?
And Tanya, thank you for asking. There's been many times, but I want to tell you one specifically. As you stated in my bio, I spent 20 years in the corporate world. It was during one of those times when I had made the move organization up to the corporate entity, which was located in Minnesota. So here I am, a Southern girl from Atlanta, Georgia, moving to a very cold place all by myself. And I was very intent on making a good impression and doing my very best. I think a lot of people fall into that type A personality that we're always going to strive to do beyond where we want to do. Or where we think, or others think that we're doing more, I guess you could say. And so it was with that where I was working, oh my gosh, I would work the 10-hour days easily in the office, going home, doing some work at that point. And I remember one day, I think it was a Thursday afternoon, my boss came to me and he looked at me and he goes, Denise. And I went, yes, and it's short. And he said, you're going to call in sick tomorrow. And I went, I'm not sick. What are you talking about? And he looked at me again and he said, you're going to call in sick. And it was at that moment that I recognized I was totally burnt out and I had not even seen it within myself. And yet he could see it for me. And with his recognition and myself, I went, yes, I'm calling in sick tomorrow. Thank you. But it's those times, Tanya, that we fall into it without even knowing that we're there. And it's, yeah.
Tell me about it. Luckily he was, I take it, a boss that kind of cared. He wasn't like pushing you. He was not pushing you to the brink that you completely collapsed. He allowed you to call in sick the following day. Luckily, there are those bosses who just don't care as long as you bring in the numbers or whatever.
Exactly.
And I wanted to ask you, obviously you've had that journey from corporate, now you run your own business. Could you tell us about that journey?
It's scary. It's a very scary journey. While I was in the corporate world, there was, number one, I do have my master's in counseling, like you said. I had a life-changing event that took me into the corporate world, and I spent 20 plus years in corporate. And not only was I very good with people, I also had a head for numbers. So it was a totally different part of myself in the corporate world because I became a certified pricing professional. So I was working with salespeople and corporations, getting them to own their work and really do it through profitability of their pricing. It was during that 20-something years that I slowly, and this is a key, this is something I think a lot of us don't realize, is that I slowly got into burnout because it took probably, there was like a day that I woke up and I thought, oh, I'm not really happy here. And yet we just keep going. We just keep doing what we know. We keep moving on and moving on. And as I look back on that corporate period when I knew I was in burnout but couldn't see it at the time, The whole indication was moving from job to job and company to company. And so it was at that point that I got let go from a job. I got that reduction in force. The universe basically said, Denise, you're in burnout. You don't need to be doing this anymore, but yet you'll just keep doing it unless we push you out. Yeah. And so it was sitting back and having that moment of reflection after I got through the emotional thought of, oh my God, what am I going to do now? And then I sat back and I said, you know what? I can recreate my life.
Wow.
I can really redesign it.
Wow.
And so there was excitement and there was fear, tons of fear. And at the same time, I had that boss that I told you about that recognized who I was and how burnout I was.
Yeah.
He called me and offered me another job to get back into the corporate world working for him, whom I adored and still do.
Yeah.
And there was that fleeting thought of, oh my God, I could go do this. I could go back into what I knew, no matter how much I would be suffering in it. Hence the title of my book, Suffering and Comfort.
I love the title of your book.
Thank you.
Because this is what social workers and healthcare professionals and some business owners and those people that are that, what you call it type A personality. I call them givers, the real compassionate, no sort. And they're the best at the best in what they do, the best and the best. They will continue. But until what the universe says something, whether that's your heart, literally your heart goes, you get high blood pressure, or a relationship suffers, or you get let go of your job, that is when you then realize, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to be doing this anymore. And I wanted to ask you, what you sound that you've started telling me the story though, what prompted you to not suffer in comfort?
It was me recognizing that I went deep inside. I really became reflective and being able and seeing that I got pushed out of my comfort zone, because that's basically what happened as I got let go from the 6-figure income that was coming in time and time again, no matter what. I knew from the moment I woke up in the morning what I was going to be doing that day and when I went to bed, into virtually an unknown. And it was that moment of going deep inside and saying, what do I want to do? When was I happiest? And that was the key question that I asked myself. And it was at that moment that I said, I loved it when I could help people and help them to grow. I've always been a person who asked the deep questions of people and helped to get the answers to that. And so it was at that time that I recognized it, even when my old boss said, you'll make X amount of dollars, which was 30% more than I'd ever made before, yada, yada, and everything like that, that I started paying attention to what my body was telling me. And the more I thought about going into the corporate world again, I literally felt sick to my stomach. And I remember I'd already signed up for a certification program for life coaching. And I remember talking to my coach at that time and telling her about it. And I said, I feel if I take that job that I would just be dying on the vine. And it dawned on me as I said that out loud, and I went, oh my gosh, that means I can't do that, because I would just be slowly dying inside and I need more. And so it was with talking to a coach, someone that was deeper into the reflective portion and the growth, transformational growth process than I even thought I could ever be, but I am now. That I was able to work with that coach to see that my gift to give to the world was not back in the corporate world. It's doing what I do today.
And you recognize, and it's a phenomenal story. I'm just having goosebumps all over just listening to you, that you recognized what your gift was, to help people grow. That's what you loved doing. And I know lots of social workers, they love their jobs. They don't necessarily want to leave it. It's not quite like corporate, right? They don't necessarily want to leave it, but it's how they're doing their jobs that's making them literally die inside. Maybe not, sometimes physically, sometimes spiritually, sometimes emotionally. and it's how they're doing their jobs. Or it could be, and this is what I'm saying to healthcare professionals and social workers and other people that are listening, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a parent, sometimes it's how you do something. And then when you change how you do something, it makes that much, it might sound really simple, really simplistic, the massive amount of difference. And could you started asking those questions, have you ever noticed that in your life when you've changed how you do something, that
totally
it changes? Can you tell about that?
Yeah. I mean, my whole process and what I do with people, and guess what, Tanya, it is simple. Life can be very simple. We make it hard. And we make it difficult because of the fear that goes on and the critical voice that we have within us. And I did work, I have my master's in counseling, and I know what it means to work in the social work, healthcare, holistic practitioner, being a total giver, just as being a woman. What I find is that most of us don't slow down enough to ask ourselves the question of what do we want? Because when we're able to say, what do I want? What choices am I making? And that's what it's about. We all make choices. Unfortunately, we make those choices that keep us stuck in somewhat of a victimhood, somewhat like that, because we're not standing up for ourselves. We're not putting ourselves first. The airlines have it absolutely right that if you don't put the mask on yourself first, you can't help anyone else. And what I find is that most of us who fall into that realm of being givers, we're going to give to everybody else before we ever think about, much less give back to ourselves. And what I tell people is this, I said, there's a beautiful way for you to pause when someone asks you a question, pause and really go deep inside and say, what do I want? And if the voice says, no, don't do it, you can graciously say, no, I appreciate what you're asking me, and at this time, that's really not going to fit for me. Being able to set boundaries and say no to others and other things in order for you to say yes to you. Because that's what it's really about, is choosing you to be your best self and to fully give even more so. Even within whatever work you're doing. Nobody's saying become an entrepreneur and do your own thing. That's not what we're talking about. We're saying if you're going home exhausted every afternoon, every evening, or whatever, and you barely have time to do much for yourself, you need to switch it and say why you're important. Ask yourself those questions. What makes me the most important person in the world and the best relationship that I have in my life? Because if you can identify yourself and your gifts and understand how much love and care you give to yourself, you're able to give so much more to everyone else in a way that is not depleting you.
Yeah. It's, you're giving, I just hope people out there are listening, because I think, because coming from that world as well, social workers, healthcare professionals, counselors, therapists, because we know it here in theory, we immerse ourselves in the theory. We think that we know, we think that we know, but we really don't know. And sometimes just getting people to subscribe to this series has been an uphill battle. And sometimes I want to give so much for them to partake with all the beautiful gifts. And you guys are just such amazing speakers that I've got on this interview series. I have to then learn, I've got to let go, because to give, you also have to know how to receive.
Bingo. If you cannot receive, you can't give more. There's a point where you're going to be so depleted that you cannot give, period. And that's what and Tanya, I'm sure that you feel the same way. And this is what I talk on and I coach on, is that everything in our life is pure energy. And it's really a cycle. And whatever we put out there, we allow to come back to us, which means that we have to be open to receiving it in the way that it comes, not controlling it. Because we have a tendency to want to control things. We have to just allow. And you're absolutely right. It is about letting go of the control, letting go of the how, letting go of sometimes feeling you're the only one that can really make a difference. It's about allowing others to come in and help too.
Exactly. And sometimes certain people resonate with you, touch your heart more than other people. They might be saying exactly the same thing, but that one person, that one coach, that therapist, that social worker, whoever it is, like just touches your heart and kind of gets you, and you feel that. You feel it. And I wanted to ask you, was your boss held that mirror that you weren't even willing to see? Was it easy for you to stop hearing that critical voice, really then directing yourself towards, you asked yourself that question, what do you want? Was it easy to then pursue what you wanted?
Absolutely not. It was not easy.
And what obstacles came in your way? We always know what we want, but come up with so many obstacles. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah. Here's the bottom line. Can it be easy? Yes, with the help and assistance of others.
Sure.
And that's the biggest thing. So the obstacles that come up is always that critical voice, that voice inside of you that asks, am I good enough? Can I really do this? What if it doesn't get done? What if? And even going into my own business, there's disciplines and practice that I put into place on a daily ritual so that I can be more aligned on the inside. It's important. It's not as if you're going to learn something once and then go, oh, got that, let's move on. It's one of those to where it becomes a part of you as you continue to do it every day and every moment. Even in no matter how many years, and I'm going into my 7th year next year with my business, I still use my own tools that I give to my clients. It just takes me a shorter period of time to implement them and put them into place. And I learn more. It's about wanting to grow and to learn and to really take that leap of faith.
And you're like talking about stuff that we do with our clients and our patients, that we want them to take that leap of faith with us.
Exactly.
We want them to grow. But how can they grow and how can they take that leap of faith if we ourselves are not taking that leap of faith? It's really hard. I know social workers and healthcare professionals and other people that are watching, because it is so scary to take that leap of faith. What advice would you give? Because some people are on different levels that are listening to this and watching this. Some people have maybe already hired a coach. Some people are already pursuing therapy. And there's some people that are contemplating it. What advice would you give about how you take that leap of faith? Yeah, that's my question.
Okay. Yeah. It's baby steps. You have to take the baby steps. It's not as if you can just visualize it and be there tomorrow without going through the process. Life is a journey, and it's about doing one thing, one step at a time. Most of us think we have to know how we're going to get to wherever we want to be and know every step of the way. And most of the time, it's just all you have to do is know the first step. It could be that first step is putting meditation into your life for 5 minutes every day. Or getting enough rest every day. That could be a step. The second step could be reaching out and reading a book that resonates with you, talking to someone that resonates with you. Even if you're in a current coaching program, it could be, what's your next step with that? Maybe it's about stepping out into the fear that we all have and will always be there. Recognizing that fear is the thing that will motivate you as opposed to keeping you stuck. And I've got a whole process on fear, on clarity, everything, but it really is about putting one thing in place, that first step. And the first step is always the hardest to do because we can talk ourselves out of it continuously. We can make so many excuses. Honey, been there, done that. I could list all the excuses in the world and make up a few more, as a matter of fact. But if we can just go ahead and take that first step in fear, because you are going to be afraid. Then you begin to recognize and believe in yourself and go, you know what? I did that. I did it. I can do the next step. And that begins to reinforce the belief in yourself and the process of taking those baby steps, no matter what they are. And you'll know if you'll just listen to that inner voice, because we all have it, and recognize that if it's negative, that's typically your ego brain that is trying to keep you safe. But if you get that bubbling up in the heart that goes, oh my God, I so want this, that's your desire, your passion. And that's what you want to hear and to listen to. Go ahead.
I'm glad you're talking about the subtle distinctions, because
it is.
We can become like so simplified in our language, the brain and that. But you're actually talking about, because all critical voices are not necessarily our enemy. Sometimes critical voices, we have that critical voice that are saying this is danger, and that actually can be our survival. It can actually mean that it safeguards us. So I'm really glad that you're like going into the distinctions and the subtleties of certain things. And what I wanted to ask you was, how do you get past, because obviously when your boss was saying you're going to take a day off the following day and you're not, there must have been, and I know social workers feel like this, there's that guilt and that shame and that embarrassment to take that first step.
Exactly. Yes.
How do you get past that shame and that embarrassment? Because I felt that in my life when I've been in really very dark places with personal crises, and not being able to share that with friends even, because I feel like, oh my God, I'm such a failure. How do you get past that shame and guilt and embarrassment?
I want to talk about that in a broad view and then give one tool to do that, because of course we know that guilt and shame comes from some of our past stories, not feeling worthy, not loving ourselves, always feeling as if we're lacking in some way, shape, or form. Again, it means reaching out and asking and seeking some type of help, either through a coach or a video program, an online program, a book even sometimes, depending on which one resonates with you. But the guilt and the shame really comes from that aspect of loving ourselves fully. Because if someone, like, he gave me permission to take a day off. He saw that I needed that time. And did I feel guilty about it the next day? Yeah, I did. And I went ahead and just observed it and said, you know what, I need this downtime. I was exhausted. I was probably close to being in tears and just wadding up into sleeping in the bed and pulling the cover over my head. So never seen anything like that. So working on your guilt and your shame and that feeling of not being good enough, not loving yourself enough, the fear of, if I don't go into work every day, I might lose my job. If I don't do this to the utmost and really get overwhelmed, they may let me go, or I'm not good enough. I've got to prove myself. Those are the things that typically come up. One of the tools I want to give is the fact of, everybody needs like a journal. And I call it a success journal. So that you can write down all the successes that you have in your life, maybe even on a daily basis. Write one thing down that you can congratulate yourself on achieving. And sometimes it's as simple as, I exercised today, yay. But yet what happens is that when that ego brain begins to go through the process of wanting to keep you safe, it's going to pull up times when you failed. It's going to show you that, hey, you tried this once before and it didn't work, so let's just not do that. Okay, let's just not try that again. And when you begin to have that success journal, you reinforce within your subconscious mind, where that is all housed, the accomplishments that you've made and how you're worthy of everything you've done. You begin to feel gratitude to yourself and love and compassion of saying, you know what, you're so worth this. That when something like that comes up and you're going to feel the guilt, and just hit the pause button and breathe. and let the mind to go through it and begin to pull out, you know what, you tried it before and it did work, so let's go do this. You don't have to feel guilty about this. This should be good. Because all you have to do is to reinforce yourself with all the good things that have happened in your life and make a choice to choose those. And it is a choice. I will tell you that.
I'm glad that you've said that about choice, because I think a lot of the time we deny our choices. We deny ourselves, sometimes even the right to choose, because we have this thing, I should be doing this.
The shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah. I have to be doing this. Sometimes changing that language from that I should to I could make it's.
And Tanya, I want to take one other step with there. I should to, I could to, I choose. I choose means that, boy, you've got some freedom within it. Because all of a sudden it's like you can have a conversation and go, do I do this? Do I not? Do I not? Do I do it? Do I not? Etc. It's the choice. And you get that freedom of saying yes to you or no or whatever. It's not like you're confined and saying, I can't, I shouldn't. And I literally feel my body caving in when I begin to say those words. When you say, I choose, it's like nobody's taking this away from me because it is mine and I'm owning it. You become accountable for what you're choosing in your life.
I could talk to you all day and I'm just like slowly disappearing to maybe now it's 35 minutes. And I wanted to ask you, because it seems like in your life there have been many times that you have been burnt out and you didn't even recognize it. What would you say would be the top 3 signs you need to watch out for? Obviously it's different for different people, but I'm noticing when I'm talking to other speakers that there are like universal themes. But I would be really interested to hear about your experience, Denise. What would you say would be the top 3 signs?
If I cry at an inappropriate time, maybe I'm watching a commercial and it's not really a teary-eyed commercial, but all of a sudden I'm crying. That means that I'm pretty burnt out. I'm exhausted on the inside. If I find myself getting short with people, not listening, and clipping at them in my words. What do you want? Then I know that I'm burnt out. I think those are the 2 biggies for me. Any other one is going to be in that process. It's an emotional state is the burnout. So when I begin to start crying, that's my whole key right there. Then I know I'm burnt out. And that's when I begin to put self-care into place. Taking a hot bath, going to bed early, sleeping later, something along those lines.
Those, I just think that those are really brilliant signs to watch out for. And I'm sure people that are listening have actually experienced that within themselves. I know I have. The crying, just why am I crying? I shouldn't be crying. It's supposed to be a happy moment and I'm just crying. This is weird. And yes, there are many times that I've been short with people and regretted it afterwards. But sometimes I actually felt very good. And then the other person's like looking at me and then they're thinking, Tanya's having a bad day. But we are human. And sometimes we need to allow ourselves to be human. And thank you so much, Denise. I've certainly learned so much just listening to you today. I've learned so much. And as you said, as Denise said, you can get this within the email that you tuned into. With this interview will be also the free gift. So you just need to scroll down and you'll see Denise's free gift. Thank you so much, Denise.
Tana, appreciate it.
Thank you for joining me, Taniya Hussain, this Beat Burnout series. Tomorrow I will have another speaker, another guest for you. And